Chapter 14 Pandit of Mohenjo-daro. Shiva opened his eyes only to behold a man who seemed almost a replica of the Pandit he had met at the Brahma temple in what seemed like another life. He sported a similar long flowing white beard and a big white mane. He wore a saffron dhoti and angavastram. The wizened face wore a calm and welcoming smile. If it hadn't been for this Pandit's much taller frame, Shiva could have easily mistaken him for the one he had met at the Brahma temple. "How are you, my friend?" repeated the Pandit as he sat down. "I'm all right, Panditji," said Shiva, using the Indian term ji as a form of respect. He couldn't understand why, but the infusion was welcome to him. It almost seemed as though he was drawn to this temple because he was destined to meet the Pandit. "Do all Pandits in Meluha look alike?" The man smiled warmly. "Not all the Pandits, just us." "And who might us be, Panditji?" "The next time you meet one of us, we will tell you," said the Pandit cryptically. "That is a promise." "Why not now?" "At this point of time, our identity is not important," smiled the Pandit. "What is important is that you are disturbed about something. Do you want to talk about it?" Shiva took a deep breath. Gut instinct told him that he could trust this man. "There is this task that I supposedly have to do for Meluha. I know, though I wouldn't dismiss the Nilkant's role as a task. He does much more than that." Pointing at Shiva's throat, the Pandit continued, "A strip of cotton cloth cannot cover divine brilliance." Shiva looked up with a weary smile. "Well, Meluha does seem like a wonderful society, and I want to do all I can to protect it from evil." "Then what is the problem?" "It is that I find some grossly unfair practices in this nearly perfect society, and that this is inconsistent with the ideals that Meluha aspires to." "What practices are you referring to?" asked the Pandit. "For example, the way the Vikrama are treated. Why is it unfair? How can anyone be sure that these people committed sins in their previous birth and that their present sufferings are a result of that? It might be sheer bad luck or a random act of nature." "You're right. It could be, but do you think that the fate of the Vikrama is about them personally? Isn't it?" "No, it isn't," explained the Pandit. "It is about the society as a whole. The Vikrama acceptance of their fate is integral to the stability of Meluha." Shiva frowned. "What any successful society needs, oh, Nilkant, is flexibility and stability." "Why would you need flexibility?" "Because every single person has different dreams and capabilities. The birth son of a warrior could have the talent to be a great businessman. Then society needs to be flexible enough to allow this son to change his vocation from his father's profession. Flexibility in a society allows change so that all its members have the space to discover their true selves and grow to their potential. And if every person in a society achieves his true potential, society as a whole also achieves its true potential." "I agree. But what does this have to do with the Vikrama?" "I will come to the obvious question in a bit. Just bear with me," said the Pandit. "If we believe that flexibility is key to a successful society, then the Mica system is designed to achieve it in a practice. No child knows what the professions of his birth parents are. He is independent to pursue what his natural talent inspires him to do. I agree. The Mica system is almost breathtaking fair. A person can credit or blame only himself for what he does with his life, nobody else. But this is about flexibility. What about stability? Stability allows a person the freedom of choice, my friend. People can pursue their dreams only when they are living in a society where survival is not a daily threat. In a society without security and stability, there are no intellectuals or businessmen or artists or geniuses. Man is constantly in fight or flight mode. Nothing better than an animal. Where is the luxury then to allow ideas to be nurtured or dream to be pursued? That is the way all humans were before we formed societies. Civilization is very fragile. All it takes is a few decades of chores for us to forget humanity and turn into animals. Our base natures can take over very fast. We can forget that we are sentient beings with laws and codes and ethics. I understand the tribes in my homeland were no better than animals. They didn't even want to live a better life. They didn't know a better life was possible, Neelkant. That is the curse of constant strife. It makes us forget the most beautiful aspects of being human. That is why society must remain stable so that it is not pushed into a situation of having to fight for survival. All right, but why would allowing people to achieve their potential cause instability? In fact, it should make people happier with their lives and thereby make society increasingly stable. True, but only partially. People are happy when their life changes for the better. But there are two situations in which change can lead to chaos. First, when people face a change imposed by others in situations that they cannot understand. This scares them almost as much as the fear of death. When change happens too fast, they resist it. Yes, change forced by others is difficult to accept. And too rapid a change causes instability. That is the bedrock of Lord Ram's way of life. There are laws which help a society change slowly and allow it to remain stable. At the same time, it allows its citizens the freedom to follow their dreams. He created an ideal balance between stability and flexibility. You mentioned a second situation. The second is when people cannot make the transition they want in order to improve their lives for reasons beyond their control. Say there is an exceptional warrior who loses his hand-eye coordination due to a disease. He is still a fighter, but not extraordinary anymore. The odds are that he will be frustrated about what he perceives as injustice meted out to him. He is likely to blame his doctor or even society at large. Many such disconnected people can become a threat to society as a whole. Shiva frowned. He didn't like the logic. But he also knew that one of the main reasons why the Prakritis had rejected the peace offer made by his uncle years ago was because their diseased and old chef was desperate to live up to his earlier reputation of being an exceptional warrior who could have defeated the Ganas. Their combined rage can lead to unrest, even violence, said the Pandit. Lord Ram sensed that, and that is why the concept of Vikrama came into being. If you make a person believe that his misfortune in this birth is due to his sins in his previous birth, he will resign himself to his fate and not vent his fury on society at large. But I disagree that ostracizing the Vikrama can work. It would only lead to a progressive increase in pent up anger. But they are not ostracized. Their living expenses are subsidized by the government. They can still interact with family members. They are free to achieve personal excellence in their chosen field wherever possible. They can also fight to protect themselves. They cannot, however, be in a position to influence others. And this system has worked for 1000 years. Do you know how common rebellion was in India before Lord Ram created this empire? And most of the times, the rebellions were not led by foresighted men who thought they would create a better way of life for the common man. They were led by men disconnected with their lot in life. People who were a lot like the Vikrama. These rebellions usually caused chaos and decades were lost before order was restored. So, what you are saying is that anyone who is frustrated with life should simply resign himself to being a Vikrama? Said Shiva. Why? For the larger good of society. Shiva was aghast. He could not believe what he was hearing. He deeply disliked the arguments being presented to him. I'm sorry, but I think this system is completely unfair. I have heard that almost 1/20th of the people in Meluha are Vikrama. Are you going to keep so many people as outcasts forever? This system needs to change. You can change it. You are the Nilkant. But remember, no system is absolutely perfect. In Lord Ram's time, a lady called Manthara triggered a series of events which led to the loss of millions of lives. She had suffered terribly due to her physical deformities, and then fate put her in a position of influence over a powerful queen and thus over the entire kingdom. Therefore, the karma of one maladjusted victim of fate led to the mass destruction that followed. Would it not have been better for everyone if this person had been declared a Vikrama? There are no easy answers. Having said that, maybe you are right. Maybe there are so many Vikrama now that it can lead to a tipping point, tumble society into chaos. Do I have the solution to this problem? No. Maybe you could find it. Shiva turned his face away. He believed in his heart that the Vikrama system was unfair. Are you concerned about all the Vikrama? O Nilkant, asked the Pandit, or just one in particular? What is the Lord doing in there? Asked Nandi. He is taking too long. I don't know, said Veerbhadra. All I know is that if Shiva says he needs to do something, I accept it. Why do you call the Lord by his name? Because that is his name? Nandi smiled at the simple answer and turned to look at the temple. Tell me, Captain, said Veerbhadra, coming close to Nandi. Is Kritika spoken for? Spoken for? Continued Veerbhadra. Is she off limits? Off limits? You know what I mean, said Veerbhadra, turning beet red. She is a widow, said Nandi. Her husband died 15 years back. Oh, that's terrible. Yes, it is, said Nandi, as he smiled at Veerbhadra. But to answer your question, she is not spoken for right now. My lady, may I say something? Asked Kritika. Sati turned from the guest room window to look at Kritika with a surprised frown. Have I ever stopped you from speaking your mind? A true Suryavanshi always speaks her mind. Well, said Kritika, sometimes it may not be so bad to lose control. Sati frowned even more. Kritika spoke quickly before her courage deserted her. Forget about him being the Nilkant, my lady, just as a man. I think he is the finest I have seen. He is intelligent and brave, funny and kind, and worships the ground you walk on. Is that really so bad? Sati glared at Kritika. She didn't know if she was more upset with Kritika for what she was saying or with herself for experiencing feelings which were apparently so evident. Kritika continued. Maybe, just maybe, breaking the rules can lead to happiness. I am a Suryavanshi, said Sati, her voice dropping. Rules are all that I live by. What have I got to do with happiness? Don't ever dare to speak to me about this again. Yes, there is this particular Vikrama, admitted Shiva, but that is not why I think the Vikrama law is unfair. I know that, said the Pandit, but I also know that what troubles you right now is your relationship with that one in particular. You don't want her to think that you would change the law. However, justified you feel in doing so just to get her, because if Sati believes that, she will never come to you. How do you know her name? Asked Shiva, flabbergasted. We know many things, my friend. My entire life is meaningless without her. I know, smiled the Pandit. Perhaps I can help you. Shiva frowned. This was unexpected. You want her to reciprocate your love, but how can she when you don't even understand her? I think I understand her. I love her. Yes, you do love her, but you don't understand her. You don't know what she wants. Shiva kept quiet. He knew the Pandit was right. He was thoroughly confused about Sati. You can hazard a guess at what she wants, continued the Pandit, with the help of the theory of transactions. What? Asked a flummoxed Shiva. It makes up the fabric of society. Excuse me, but what does this have to do with Sati? Indulge me for a while, Nilkant, said the Pandit. You are aware that the cloth which has been spun into your clothes is created when cotton threads are woven together, right? Yes, answered Shiva. Similarly, transactions are threads that, when woven together, make up a society, its culture, or in the case of a person, they weave together his character. Shiva nodded. If you want to know the strength of a cloth, you inspect the quality of its weave. If you want to understand a person's character, look closely at his interpersonal behavior or his transactions. All right, said Shiva, slowly observing the Pandit's word. But transactions are. I will explain, interrupted the Pandit. Transactions are interaction between two individuals. It could be trading goods, like a Shudra farmer offering grain for money from a Vaishya. But it could also be beyond material concerns, like a Kshatriya offering protection to a society in return for power. Shiva nodded in agreement. Transactions are about give and take. Exactly. According to this logic, if you want something from someone, you have to give that person something he wants. So, what do you think she wants? Asked Shiva. Try and understand Sati's transactions. What do you think she wants? I don't know, she is very confusing. No, she isn't. There is a pattern. Think, she is probably the most eminent Vikrama in history. She has the power to rebel if she wants to. She certainly has the spirit, since she never backs off from a fight. But she does not rebel against the Vikrama law. Neither does she fade into the background like most Vikrama and live her life in anonymity. She follows the commandments, and yet she does not whine and complain. However unfairly life treats her, she conducts herself with dignity. Why? Because she is a righteous person? That she is, no doubt, but that is not the reason. Remember, in a transaction, you give something because you want something in return. She is accepting an unfair law without trying to make anyone feel guilty about it. And most importantly, she continues to use her talents to contribute to the good of society whenever she can. What do you think a person who is giving all this in her transactions with society wants in return? Respect? Answered Shiva. Exactly, beamed the Pandit. And what do you think you do when you try to protect such a person? Disrespect her? Absolutely. I know it comes naturally to you to want to protect any good person who appears to be in need. But control that feeling where Sati is connected. Respect her, and she will feel irresistibly drawn towards you. She gets many things from the people who love her. What she doesn't get is what she craves for the most: respect. Shiva looked at the Pandit with a grateful smile. He had found his answer: respect. After 2 weeks, the Nilkant's convoy reached the city of Karachpa at the confluence of the Indus and the Western Sea. It was a glittering city which had long ground beyond the one platform that it had been built on. The Dvitiya or second platform had been erected 50 years ago on an even grander scale than the first one. The Dvitiya platform was where the Karachpa elite lived. The governor, a diminutive Vaishya called Juleshwar, had heard of and followed the new tradition of receiving the Nilkant outside the city. Karachpa, with its 100,000 citizens, was at its heart a frontier trading city. Therefore, it was an act of foresight by Lord Brahmanayak, Emperor Daksha's father, to have appointed a Vaishya as its governor over 100 years ago. Juleshwar had ruled the city extraordinarily well, gilding its fate in gold. He was considered its wisest and most efficient governor ever. Karachpa had long overtaken Lothal in the eastern part of the emperor to become Meluha's premier city of commerce. While foreigners such as Mesopotamians and Egyptians were allowed into this liberal city, they cannot travel further inland without express royal permission. Juleshwar escorted the Nilkant on an excursion to the Western Sea on his very first day in Karachpa. Shiva had never seen the sea and was fascinated by the near infinite expanse of water. He spent many hours at the port where Juleshwar proudly expounded upon the various types of ships and vessels that were manufactured at the shipyard attached to the Karachpa port. Brahaspati accompanied them to the port in order to check on the imports he was expecting from the Mesopotamian merchants. At the state dinner organized for Shiva, Juteshwar proudly announced that a yagna, a ceremonial fire sacrifice, was being organized the next day in honor of the Nilkant under the auspices of Lord Varun and the legendary Ashwini Kumar twins. The Ashwani Kumar twins were celebrated ancient seafarers who had navigated ocean routes from Meluha to Mesopotamia and beyond. Their maps, guidance, and stories were a source of inspiration and learning for this city of seamen. After dinner, Shiva visited the chambers where Sati and Kritika were housed. I was wondering, said Shiva, still careful with Sati since she had gone back to being formal with him. Will you be coming to the yagna tomorrow? I am very sorry, Lord Nilkant, said Sati courteously, but it may not be possible for me to attend the ceremony. I am not allowed to attend such yagnas. Shiva was about to say that nobody would question her since she would be attending with the Nilkant, but he thought better of it. Perhaps we could practice some dance tomorrow? I cannot remember the last time we had a dance session. That would be nice. I have not had the benefit of your instruction in a long time, said Sati. Shiva nodded unhappily at Sati. The freeze in their relationship tormented him. Bidding goodbye, he turned to leave. Kritika glanced at Sati, shaking her hand imperceptibly.